What if I told you that everything you know about electricity, your monthly bills, your dependence on the grid, and even the laws of physics you were taught in school might be completely wrong? Today, I did something most people only dream or argue about. I finally got my hands on Maxwell Chikumbutso's legendary free energy device, the one they said was scientifically impossible. No more theories. No more rumors. I plugged it in. I tested it. I measured every watt. And what happened next shocked even me. Before we dive into the results, you need to understand who Maxwell Chikumbutso really is. Born in Harare, Zimbabwe, with no university degree, no formal lab, and certainly no corporate backing, and yet this man claims to have built electric cars that never need charging, helicopters that run on electromagnetic energy, and now a home power unit that generates electricity from thin air. To scientists, he's a mystery. To skeptics, he's a fraud. To believers, he's Nikola Tesla reborn. After months of emails, negotiations, and more NDAs than I can legally mention, I finally secured one of Maxwell's so-called MSED power units. A compact box, no bigger than a microwave, promised to generate anywhere between 500 watts to 5 kilowatts without any external fuel source. No solar, no wind, no batteries, just oscillating magnetic fields. To ensure a fair test, I brought in a certified electrical engineer and 2 calibrated load meters. We connected a 1,500-watt heater, a refrigerator, and an entire row of LED lights. Everything was ready. I flipped the switch. The meters began reading. Voltage, stable. Load, stable. Power input, 0. The device was outputting power, without consuming any. Minute after minute, the heater kept running, the fridge stayed cold, and the lights refused to flicker. No battery was hidden inside. No wires were secretly attached. No tricks. Was this truly free energy? Or was it harvesting ambient frequencies, radio waves, magnetic resonance, ground induction? Nobody could say for sure. But one thing was undeniable. This device was producing usable electricity with no conventional source. Imagine homes in Africa, Asia, and rural America running without power lines. Imagine disaster zones powered instantly. No fuel, no diesel generators. Imagine an end to corporate energy monopolies. If Maxwell's technology scales, the fossil fuel industry won't just be challenged, it could be overthrown. I know what you're thinking. Is this real? Why isn't the world talking about it? That's exactly what I'm investigating next. But as promising as it looked, I refuse to be blinded by excitement. One successful test isn't enough to rewrite the rules of energy. So I took things further. I increased the load, swapped out the heater for a full-size induction cooktop, and plugged in an electric kettle simultaneously. That's over 2,000 watts of demand. Any normal inverter without a reliable source would have tripped instantly. But this didn't even flinch. The hum stayed constant. Voltage steady. No overheating. No voltage sag. My engineer looked at me, eyebrows raised. He didn't say out loud, but I could see in his face, this shouldn't be working, but it is. Still not convinced, we disconnected everything and pulled out thermal imaging equipment. If there were hidden batteries inside, internal components would show heat signatures far beyond normal. But the thermal scan came back boring, almost too boring. No hot spots, no sudden spikes, just mild warmth, the kind you get from typical electromagnetic coils. If this device isn't pulling power from a wall, from solar, or from an internal battery, then where is this energy coming from? There are a few possibilities. Some engineers argue that Maxwell's system may be tapping into ambient RF signals, radio frequencies constantly floating through the air from cell towers, Wi-Fi routers, and broadcasting stations. Others suggest it could be exploiting something deeper, magnetic resonance from the Earth itself, similar to Schumann resonances. And then there's a most controversial group, those who believe it's tapping into what Nikola Tesla once called radiant energy, a form of energy science still can't fully explain. Now, let me be clear. I'm not here to declare new physics. I'm not here to scream, free energy is real. Not yet, but I am here to say something even more powerful. There's something happening inside this box that conventional engineering cannot yet explain, and that alone is historic. Over the next few days, I left the device running continuously. I connected cameras, meters, and monitoring equipment to log every second. No power drops, no shutdowns, just quiet, consistent output. Day after day. That's when something unexpected happened. Neighbors began noticing. They saw my house powered during blackouts. They saw my backyard lights glowing without any visible panels or cabling. Word began to spread. Within a week, people were knocking on my door asking, "Is this real? Can I buy one? Why isn't the government talking about this?" And that's when I realized testing the device was the easy part. What comes next is the real challenge. Because if this technology is real and if it scales, it will disrupt trillions of dollars. Energy companies won't stay silent. Governments will intervene. Regulators will step in. History shows us that every time someone tries to cut the cord on centralized power, they face resistance. So here's what I'm doing next. I'm taking this investigation global. I'm contacting universities. I'm inviting physicists, skeptics, and believers alike to publicly debate it. Because whether Maxwell Chikumbutso is a genius, a fraud, or something entirely new, the world deserves to know. It started subtly. First, one of my monitoring cameras stopped recording, despite having full storage. Then, the smart meter I installed between the device and my circuit panel froze, displaying nonsensical values. My Wi-Fi router, which had been stable for months, suddenly experienced constant interference only when the device was active. Coincidence? Maybe. But then I received an email. No sender name. No signature. Just one line. Stop broadcasting unauthorized energy devices. You're being observed. Now, I'm not one for conspiracy theories. But let's be real. Nobody sends messages like that unless they don't want something going public. So I did what any logical person would do. I doubled down. I set up duplicate meters, all offline, analog, mechanical, unhackable. I isolated the device from my main grid entirely and created a standalone circuit, one that powered a small workshop I built in the backyard. No connection to the utility company. No data line. Completely off the grid. And still it ran flawlessly. Every tool, every light, every appliance, powered by nothing but a magnetic hum. But here's where things took a turn. One evening, while I was reviewing my energy logs, I heard footsteps in my yard. Slow, calculated. Not kids, not animals. By the time I got outside, nobody was there. But something was. A fresh footprint in the dirt, right next to the power box housing Maxwell's unit. And next to it, a tire track. Wide. Military grade. Not the kind you see on regular cars. At that moment, a truth hit me. If one small, silent box can power a house, it can power a village. If it can power a village, it can free nations. And if entire nations become energy independent, every corporation selling electricity, gasoline, diesel, natural gas, coal, and uranium becomes obsolete. And they know it. Will the world be allowed to use it? In my next move, I'm taking this device beyond my home. I'm going to put it inside an electric vehicle. No charging, no grid, just continuous power, forever. And if it works, if this thing turns a regular EV into a self-sustaining machine. I didn't wait for permission. The very next morning, I rolled my electric vehicle, a standard mid-range model with a depleted battery, into the workshop. Normally, it would need hours on a high-capacity charger. But this time, I wasn't plugging it into the grid. I wired the output from Maxwell's device directly into the EV's charging port, using a DC to AC inverter bridge. My engineer friend, who by now had gone from skeptic to silent believer, stood beside me, watching carefully. "If this actually charges," he muttered, "then everything changes." I flipped the switch. Nothing happened for 2 seconds. Then, beep, the dashboard lit up. Charging initiated. Not trickle charging. Not slow. Fast charging. We both froze, staring at the display. Battery percentage ticking upward. 12%, 13%, 14%. No heat. No overload. No shutdown. It wasn't just working. It was outperforming my standard wall charger. Half an hour passed. The car hit 60%. That's when I decided to try something completely insane. Instead of waiting for the battery to reach full, I unplugged the charger entirely and connected the device directly to the car's motor input line. No battery buffer, no storage, just pure live feed. My engineer backed away slowly, as if expecting an explosion. I gripped the steering wheel, pressed the start button, the car powered on. I pressed the accelerator. The wheels turned, slow at first, then faster. No lag, no flicker. I was driving, powered by thin air. At that moment, I realized something profound. This wasn't free energy. This was freedom energy. The kind that doesn't just power machines. It liberates people. No more billing meters. No more fuel dependency. No more centralized control. A world where every household, every village, every moving vehicle generates its own energy. Silently. Infinitely. But before I could savor that future, my phone buzzed. No caller ID. I answered, cautiously. No name. No company. Just certainty. They already knew. And that's when it hit me. This isn't just an experiment anymore. It's a race. A race between innovation and suppression. Truth and control. Freedom and fear. Now I have a decision to make. Not because of fear. At least, not entirely. It was something else. A feeling I couldn't quite name. A mixture of responsibility and inevitability. Whoever made that call already knew everything, which meant hiding was pointless. Silence was surrender. And I hadn't come this far to hand over the future like a coward. So I did the opposite of what they were expecting. Instead of shutting down the device, I expanded the setup. I brought in more meters, more recorders, multiple backup cameras, some wired, some wireless, some completely offline. I mirrored every reading to encrypted drives stored offsite. If they plan on erasing this, they'd have to erase every copy on Earth. Then I did one more thing. Within hours, the video documenting my full test, home power, vehicle drive, live readings, began spreading, not on mainstream platforms. Those were too easy to censor. No, I pushed it to decentralized networks, peer-to-peer clusters, encrypted servers hosted in multiple countries, mirror links multiplying by the thousands faster than any takedown could track. I wasn't just releasing proof. I was seeding a revolution. By morning, the responses started pouring in, not from viewers, not from fans, from engineers, emails with blueprints, messages from technicians claiming they had been trying to build similar systems but were silenced by their companies, whisper confessions from Energy Lab employees saying we've known this was possible for years, but we were forbidden from pursuing it. That question, simple, human, undeniable, did more than any speech could have. It shattered the illusion that this was about laws or protocol. It wasn't about control or ownership. It was about people. And people were done waiting. Within 48 hours, the footage of the demonstration exploded across every platform on Earth, mirrored faster than it could be blocked. News stations tried to dismiss it as unverified, but the internet had already taken over. Makerspaces began forming replication hubs. Retired engineers came out of hiding. Students skipped class to build prototypes. Villages that had never tasted electricity before lit up their first light bulbs, without diesel, without solar, without permission. The energy monopoly wasn't defeated in some dramatic courtroom showdown. This was the day energy stopped being a commodity and became a birthright. The day dependence died, and freedom was switched on.